Today, my guest is Pierre Wijdenes, the CEO and co-founder of Neuraura. I've been watching this journey of Pierre and his team for a few years now, and I wanted to invite him to talk to me about this journey because I find the story that Pierre has is quite inspirational. And I want to tell my viewers about the way how Canadian startups, especially in healthcare, can start and can progress, and how not easy sometimes this path can be, yet it can be very rewarding. Neuraura is based in Calgary, Alberta, and the company is actually aiming to revolutionize epilepsy surgery as well as neuro monitoring. Majority of my viewers, Pierre, they are actually students and new grads, and some of them are right now on a path of finding what they want to do in life and finding their career path. And I know that some people would like to start a company or they want to know how to work in a startup, but sometimes it can be quite intimidating and scary. So I wanted to share your story with them, and hopefully your personal story will help them to make that jump and will help them to start the company or maybe even consider bringing something from university, from their academic background, to a more business world. And I really want to ask you a few questions on behalf of my viewers, and we'll see, maybe that will change their life. I'll start my interview with you with a question. How did you start the company? How did you come up with the idea? And when did it happen? And if you just start from there, and we'll talk more.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, Anna. Um, Look, like, people say sometimes entrepreneurs are born. I don't think it's true. Entrepreneurs are discovered, and that's something that everyone can discover within themselves. And I'll give a personal example to justify that. I previously originally like come back from France, obviously with my accent, and back then there was some people trying to teach us in entrepreneurship at the engineering school, and they basically asked right the plan, and it was boring like hell. It was uninteresting, and I was thinking, how come people can take some risks? Like, why will actually people do that? Entrepreneurship is not for me. And so after that, I did a few internships, and I ended up deciding to come to Calgary to do my PhD here. And first thing, like around the community, I started attending different talks from owners, people who have built anything from, cosmetic company to companies related to nanotechnology or oil and gas, education, whatever. And they were so humble and talking with such a simplicity that allowed me to realize, hey, like that could be me. Like actually could be me. I could actually see myself in their shoes and thinking one day I could be, talking to people as well and sharing my experience. But what I recognize in these people is how humble they were, and that really drove me to about entrepreneurship. Now, it's through some program that I attended at the universities that allowed me to also some basic knowledge about lean startup, about where you start, how you collect ideas. The idea of having a small football where there you write down all the ideas you may have, and there's going to be 99 bad ones, I guarantee you, and out of those 100, there's
Mhm.
going to be one that is good. And which one do you actually to pursue, and how do you, fail cheap, fail fast? And so you'll pick that ideas and quickly test it before you go to the next one. It's not the wrong one. Now, what really happened after and in parallel is during my PhD, one of my friends ended up in a hospital for more than days, and she had seizures at the time.
Mhm.
But what's happened is that it suddenly got worse for her. Like she had, 5 seizures a day. She was completely incapacitated. Um, she was in hospital being monitored 24 hours a day. They detected all the seizures. They kept all them. But after those 10 days, the doctor came back to her and said, sorry, we don't know what's happening. And like, not only was it extremely frustrating from the doctor side not to be able to treat the patients, but she was like, sent home with the same medication with no treatments. You just wonder what's the point, like what's happening, what is wrong in the system. And what we realized very quickly is that they couldn't understand her brain activity because it was a very poor resolution. No one could understand the brain, like not even a very high performance machine learning algorithm. So while I was developing sensors for the brain as part of my PhD, we realized, hey, what if we apply those sensors to better understand the brain? And then, I finished my PhD, realized that I was more interested into business management strategy. I did a few interviews with some of the firms, but there was this kind of like responsibility. Like it's like I was living away and not being responsible for this piece of technology that we know could save people. I will have to regret that for the rest of my life. I didn't take a chance
Mm-hmm.
to actually save my friends, but also all the millions of other ones suffering from similar conditions. And
Mm-hmm.
I simply didn't want to live with that. So it's kind of a human responsibility just to charge ahead and try and take
Yeah.
the risk, because suddenly the risk becomes nothing. You can potentially save people's life.
Yeah. Well, you came from a very personal side of this, and definitely progressing towards your goal. And I think it's very ambitious, and I think it's an amazing journey to choose. But why do you think many people do not follow that calling? What prevents them from starting their companies? Let's say they do develop something great and technologically advanced in the lab, but it never really sees the light of the world. What do you think prevents people from doing so?
Well, I think there's two things. Like there's the things at a personal level where it's always easier to know what you don't want to do than what you actually really want to do. And
Mhm.
we don't ask ourselves too much that question, like if you had all the money, if you had no limits, what will you be doing? What is your passion? If your passion is really about this piece of technology you develop or this condition you can treat, do you really want to charge ahead? And if you don't, that's okay, but you can also find a way to give that technology to someone else to do it and do the business
Mhm.
for you if there's a market. That's the internal thing. And then the top one thing for anything external is the people you surround yourself with. Um, I will never have started that company if it wasn't with the other co-founders as well. It's
Mhm.
just the charge is too heavy for one person to some extent, and you need to surround yourself with other co-founders that have similar visions, that have similar work, and that's just okay also to be on this wild journey where it's going to be a complete roller coaster. So
Mhm.
everyone is incentivized with shares of the company, of course, but everyone is driven by a similar mission and everyone agrees on that
Yeah.
mission. And then it's the other people you hire, right? Like only hire smarter people than yourself. And I think certainly when you start to share the experience with other people, it becomes more manageable. Like you can start to see the elephants and eat the elephant one piece at a time. It's more, you break down things more easily, understand everything is on your shoulder. Um,
Yeah.
that's often, I will say, the hardest piece, finding the right people.
Mhm.
Sometimes the same crazy people that are willing to take such bets and that are motivated to not be there just for 6 months or a year, but 2 years, because it's going to be a journey.
Yeah. And you need to be very patient for that journey. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So let's say if someone has that idea and has a potentially even technology or research project that can be applicable in real world in healthcare and health tech, what steps those people could make in order to at least start the process? What are the first initial steps they need to do?
Yeah, I will, you know, I will reach out to people that have
Hmm.
done that, people who have experience.
Hmm.
When you start like that, you have to be extremely coachable. So you need to be open to ask for help and then that
Hmm.
you probably don't think. Um, you need to realize that doing the innovation on technology is maybe 10% maximum of the innovation, and the other 90% is actually on how you bring those prototypes to
Yeah.
market, because that's really what they are at the stage. They're just prototype. There are tons of issues or problems to solve with manufacturing as well,
Hmm.
communication and regulatory, right? So that's, you need to be in this state of mind, and then reach out to people that can guide you, that can, point you right direction, or to other people. A lot of my work is connecting with many different stakeholders,
Hmm.
and sometimes I know that this person, we're just going to be sharing an experience together, but this person may know someone else that is directly related to what I'm doing,
Hmm.
and then suddenly, we can all get closer as a community. There are some great programs around, even thinking about, things like Techstar and accelerator incubators, or other ones in North America. But even
Hmm.
in your local community, like Calgary, there's a university that offers tons of programs to bring people together and innovate together. There's rainforest. There's just a lot of people that are willing to support each other's, and I think the first step is actually to get there, and spend time a bit with the community, right? So it is, often I find like it's going to help you not only with finding the right people, but have your own ideas evolve, and help you bring all the pieces of the puzzle together,
Hmm.
or at least start.
Yeah. I think it's great you talked about accelerators and programs, local or North America wide. Maybe I think it would be a good idea to share some of the links and some examples, and I will do it after we're done with the video. I'll probably share some links below my video so people can go and refer to those type of places and communities that you're talking about. Because I think I think that's the intimidating part. People do not know where to start sometimes. They just feel a bit lost. That's what I hear, at least from some students. They don't know where to go. So at least if they can do a little bit of research and find those communities, they can start somewhere. And that would lead me to my next question, because obviously idea, it's a great thing. A research project, every research project probably is being seen by creators as a great project, and the newest, the greatest. However, the one of the very important components of building a startup, building a company, is actually funding, and having funding to even lift that off the ground. So the question that I have for you is more about Canadian community and Canadian way of funding health healthcare related startups. How hard it is to get some seed funding in Canada? Maybe it's easy, maybe it's hard. What was your experience, and how hard it gets when you, let's say, get the first round, but does it get harder to approach the second one, or it's easier? So can you tell a little bit more about that? What was your journey?
Sure. So, to your question about AXA, because it started there really, and um, it was a way for us to approach also financing.
Mm-hmm.
So accelerator we did was the Creative Destruction Lab, and that was an incredible experience for us. It
Mm-hmm.
was transformational, personally and professionally. Um, it's kind of a Dragon's Den or Shark Tank, just without the TV. So you will meet with investors on a weekly basis, and they will talk about you while you are on the
Mm-hmm.
podium, and either kick you out or keep working you because there is some interest. Um, we came there with like being two nerdy scientists who knew nothing about business, right? Help because we need business skills or expertise, and we survived that process. It was really like a boot camp, but we met some like incredible people, including our COO and one of the other co-founder, Claire, to complete the team business expertise. And it really allowed us to understand, the company, what it takes when it needs to start to figure it out, and actually raise our first round of financing led by a few angels. And so that was even like what I will call a pre-seed, right? It's just you have friends and families, and then you have angel groups that may get together and invest in you. So that was our first experience. There are tons of accelerator out there. We had
Hmm.
some good or bad experience, but this one was probably ranking in the top three of what we did. The other accelerators we joined that I really recommend as well are the CTAs, so Canadian Technology Accelerator. So
Hmm.
Canada has a network of accelerators across the globe. So you have some in Singapore, Taiwan, Hong Kong, a few in the US, but also Europe. And it allows companies to, have some exposure to international markets, both in terms of product and sales, but also in terms of financing. We did the one in San Francisco because they have a life science stream that is, dedicated to life science company, and the other we did was in Boston as well, so East Coast, and both were incredible programs, linking us with people that understand, ecosystem of life science and medical devices, what it takes to build companies, what's, building your quality management system, regulatory. Many of these
Hmm.
are still connected with our company. We finish the accelerator, either they are advisors or they are now clients. So we are the clients because they help us build our quality management system, and some of them are investors. So, it really allowed us to reach out to a larger community, and I will say a community we don't necessarily have in Calgary. Calgary is well known for oil and gas, but not so much for medical devices. So there's a
Hmm.
lot of things we need to build here, but also learn from what is being done in other places. So I hope that answers your question regarding accelerator and regarding financing. Overall, like it is, it is there is what everyone will call the valley of death when you talk about seeds, because there is this gap between angel investors and Series A investments.
Yeah.
Getting investment seed is more challenging,
Hmm.
I will say. This being said, like every round financing is usually hard. People
Yeah.
will tell you that they raise money in 2 days. It's not true. Like, it's probably not the case. They probably have worked on people. Um, Now, what we see is that for us, we have managed to raise pre-seed money mostly from Canada, and for our seed investments, we are looking at gaining traction and capital from the US. So, we
Hmm.
have different things in the pipeline, but we feel the need to be closer to the US ecosystem, not only because it will be our primary market once we commercialize the clinical product, but it is also where a lot of the capital is for this type of work we are doing with the brain, neuromotion.
Yeah.
It's more risky than traditional businesses, and they are,
Yeah.
I guess, less adverse than Canadians.
But that's what I see a lot, and you probably see the same, and you just actually confirmed that even though you can start in Canada, and that's, I guess, unfortunate for Canadian life sciences and healthcare technology companies, because eventually they have to go and they have to get access to American money. So it's not as easy to stay local, stay Canadian. And I think that's something that people should consider, should know about, because it's, unfortunately, I see it quite a lot, and you see it probably as well. I wonder if slowly Canada will establish something more solid for companies like yours when it is risky, but yet the reward they potentially can have in the future can be so much more, I don't know, tremendous, right? And the impact that it can have can be absolutely unbelievable. So I think that what people need to understand and know. So it's great to start in Canada. You need to be prepared to move to the States, but hopefully things will change and hopefully more and more programs will be available for entrepreneurs and for
Yeah,
startups in healthcare.
yeah, and
Yeah.
I don't even think you need to move to the US.
Yeah. It's just
At the
like
stage
you
we are
said, access.
in,
Hmm.
but having a kind of a satellite company,
Yeah.
Delaware, something that can help you develop your activity there. Canada, there's just this economy of scale, right? Like the US is
Yeah.
10 times bigger than Canada, so in terms
Yeah.
of access to market as well as capital. There's just more, you can't compete against that. Now, Canada is doing amazing innovation. There's
Hmm.
tons of innovation university or institute. And it's often an innovation that is respected because
Yeah.
people know that in Canada it is very rigorous. The process being used at universities, we don't oversell what we do. We're actually
Yeah.
pretty conservative on how we sell.
Yeah.
But there's also a lot of non-dilutive fundings in Canada that you can tap into. Uh, we wouldn't be in Canada if we didn't have all the support from the community, but also all this non-dilutive funding coming from provincial or federal agencies.
Yeah.
I'm looking to innovate, I'm thinking about Tectera, but I'm also thinking about IRAP and other type of shred credits that exist. There's ton.
Hmm.
Um, and this capital can be used to develop your company and structure in Canada while you push the sales in as the headquarters can stay, I believe, in Canada, and there's a lot of benefits to do that. Sometimes the challenge is actually to educate your US counterpart that is its
Hmm.
strategy to do.
Yeah. Okay, that's a great point. I guess in this whole process that you just mentioned, how do you think the role of mentors and advisors can be evaluated, and how big of a role mentors and advisors play in the process of building up a company in your journey?
Yeah, I differentiate very much those roles between men and advisors. To me, a mentor doesn't have any, and it's just maybe the naming, but to me, a mentor doesn't need financial incentive to
Hmm.
support someone else. It is just pure, genuine support and the will to give back often
Hmm.
what they have. And I do have, thankfully, quite a few mentors. And as my journey moves forwards, I'm new as well. Those are critical because they help me realize that I'm not alone. Being a CEO of a company, founding a company is a very nice job. Having those mentors around that have been there on that and that generally talk to me without billing me. They're just there to give back.
Hmm.
Makes me understand how there is actually, it makes me feel just better and gives me the energy to sometimes continue when I think, oh, I'm down today. So those things are extremely important. And then, I have mentors that are helping us more on the side, but some are also helping us more on the internal side. So, for example, the Mentorship
Hmm.
Society of Alberta, MSA,
Yeah.
have been in that program for I guess close to 2 years now, and their whole focus is about how do you focus on helping the entrepreneur rather than the company. And all we talk about is me, baby. They are, you know, just listening and helping me deal with my life so I can
Yeah.
better, you know, deal with my and better deal with the company. So those things, are equally important. In terms of advisors, this is more strategic. You want to bring people that I think are there for the right reasons as well. You really
Hmm.
want people that often they know even they're gonna get compensated in terms of stock options or maybe a salary if they sit on a board or if they do some consulting work. But
Hmm.
you want people that still are there for the long term and the vision of the company that is critical. And we often spot that because many of the people we work with worked with us without asking anything at the beginning. They just provided the time and support. And
Yeah.
after a few months, they okay, well, how can we involve more actively? And we would love to have you as an advisor, and we can provide stock options. And it's more, it's more organic. And then you also attract advisors that bring some weight in the company, right? So people that the industry recognize as leaders in the field, because these are things that Medtronic and other financial institutions, for example, VCs, will recognize and assess that if these people bring their credibility to play and
Yeah.
allow themselves to be on your deck, there is definitely something here to look into. So you have to look at it this way as well. It's not only, hey, that's a good buddy. He's gonna be on my advisory board because he can bring value. It's also, hey, how is that
Hmm.
perceived outside world?
Yeah. So would you suggest to people who are watching right now, would you suggest to go and actively search for mentors or and advisors, or you think it's just a natural progression while you're building something, you attract people, you meet people and you feel it? So what would be your suggestion? Because I know some people asking like, where do I go and search for a mentor? Because I do not think you can search for one. I think it comes to your life. But I also know for business purposes, sometimes you need to make that effort to find those people who can help you because it, like you said, it can be quite lonely at the beginning. So what would you suggest?
Yeah, I will suggest you, you know, I will do two things in parallel. First thing will be um, finding those before advisors, because you want to find people that are there just to help and
Mm-hmm.
genuinely to help, and maybe one day they become advisors.
Yeah.
For that, just go in the community and gain some exposure regarding who you are, what you want to do, and ask questions, and see the type of answer you get.
Mm-hmm.
As students, you have a very interesting cards to play where everyone likes to help students. So do never hesitate to approach people, because one thing I can guarantee is that if you reach out to like 10 people, at least six will get back to you, because people like to
Mm-hmm.
give back to students. I do
Yeah.
that all the time. And in fact, when I was a student, they weren't, in France, there were not so many people that were giving back. But when I came to Canada, there were a lot of people to give back, and I'm always thankful for that. And the other thing I will do in parallel is ask yourself the question and start to approach people regarding co-founders, and actually figure out, what will be the ideal co-founder
Mm-hmm.
for you. What are the things you're lacking in terms of expertise, but also what are the personality that you would like to see in the other one. Those things happen in parallel because they take time. And so it's always remember that when you are creating something like that, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. So you need to build momentum and capacity, and that's simply takes time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Very wise words. I'm sure many people will appreciate that. One more question I have for you, and it's a very relevant question to the time that we all live in. During the pandemic, there was a trend that healthcare, health tech companies, they get more and more popularity among investors, among even media. People are looking into them. So it's almost rediscovered the industry in a way, because I think pandemic made people to realize how important health care is, that healthcare systems around the world, they have different flaws and certain things can be improved. So what is your opinion from your perspective, where you're at right now and the state of your company at the moment? Do you think pandemic made it easier for startups in health tech and life sciences to get funding, get promoted, get out there? Did it make it easier, or it actually made it harder? Because many businesses are suffering right now. And I think different fields outside of healthcare, they see a bit of a decrease in funding, decrease in interest from investors. So what will be your point in terms of climate, startup climate, specifically in healthcare and health tech for startups and small businesses in this field?
Yeah, no, I think in terms of health technologies, or life science in general, what we have seen is, last year has been apparently quite important investments. But when you look behind the curtain, you realize that it's a lot of Series A, Series B, Series
Mm-hmm.
investment, so large rounds. So, the shift, like people are shifting their investment towards less risky investment, larger one but risky. So it looks like
Yeah.
big, in fact,
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of innovation left on the table because no one knows what's going to happen. And the number one reason why people or technology or startup fail, it's not because of the technology.
Mm-hmm.
It's because of other reasons, execution, people, etc. Right? So
Mm-hmm.
uh, you live in an uncertain time where the markets are putting a lot of pressure on people in financing. You just don't take those bets that much. Say that there has been some sectors of health tech, when you think about home monitoring,
Mm-hmm.
that people have realized, hey, there's a lot of things to in that space. And in fact, even if you look at the vaccines, like we are using technologies that were around for quite some times in labs, right? But what we found is we have been facing such an enormous gap in our system. And we were like, well, there's all this innovation, but we are not bold enough. But so is this pandemic, and we realize, oh, maybe we shouldn't be that scared, and we just need to play that card. And vaccines happen to be quite safe at the end of the day. When you look at the numbers, I think the same thing is
Yeah.
happening with innovation. It has pushed us to realize where the gaps were, and I'm hoping that we will see more investments more and more for small companies that push the innovation more up, but also the realization that, yeah, there are gaps we can fill. Like there are things that
Yeah.
have been proven to pay off in terms of investments when we decide to do deep tech and cutting edge technologies, and we need more of that because we are touching the surface in terms of what is possible for the medical industry.
Mhm.
Fields like data, health data management,
Yeah.
giving health back to people, better surgery, everything like, when you look sometimes at the system being used in hospital, it's quite retarded in many cases. There's a lot of things we can improve.
Definitely. Definitely. We're actually running out of time because I know you're a busy person. I don't want to take much longer. But my last question would be about, actually, I would like to ask you to tell all the viewers, the audience that we have, your reasons why people who actually have that, even a small idea or that seed type of thought in their head that they want to start a company and they wanted to become an entrepreneur, yet they're maybe right now working in a research lab somewhere in a university. So can you tell them why they should actually go for it? You can actually tell advantages and disadvantages, both pluses and minuses of being an entrepreneur and founder a company, but just to encourage them, give them that light of encouragement. Why? If they have that inside of them, they should nurture it and try if they really want to.
Yeah, and I think it's very simple. Like if you really believe in something that you have or an idea that you believe can change the world for the better, and that's what your heart is telling, just follow your heart. It sounds cheesy, but it's really what people need to do. And if you follow that, it's kind of your second brain. A lot of things that appeared risky, you'll still realize them as risky, but you will feel more comfortable taking those risks. In my case, I studied, I had no family, no kids. Is that a factor? It's a factor, but we see many people around that have kids and families, and they still jump both feet in because um, they, they want to achieve, this mission for themselves and for
Mhm.
people. So really, I think it starts with the heart. But then, of course, there are things you do to risk a bit the process, and you don't have to, you know, jump with both feet in this world. You can start things on the side and see where that leads you, and see if it appeals to you. Um, as long as you are conscious that an idea is a diamond dozen, and so it's like a lot of energy to see these ideas become reality. But again, if you're up for the challenge, I think you should not hesitate. I think you have more things to lose when you don't try than you actually can try, and move forward in peace that you have given your best shot.
I think many people confuse the glamorous part about being founder and CEO of a company with a lot of work that they need to do. Like you said, if you need to be up for a challenge before you make that jump. But if you have, like you said, you have that wish and desire to make this world better and change something, I think people definitely should make that jump and they should try it, because I think it's important to have that strength in yourself to admit that you want to do it and you do it. Thank you, Pierre.
Yeah,
Thank you so
absolutely.
much, because you're one of those people that stay true to your core values and beliefs through all the years since I've known you, and you've been progressing, and I'm really proud to know you, and I'm really proud to watch the progression that Neuraura is making over this time. So I'm really grateful for you that you were able to join me here and talk to me. And I really hope that the viewers, people who are watching this video, they will appreciate those words that you shared, because I think personal stories are the most important stories when it's not about the company, how you want to be looked on the paper, right? So person behind the story, I think, plays the biggest role and the biggest role in success. So I'm wishing you all the best. Thanks again.
Thanks
And
for this.
I will definitely leave all the information about Neuraura. I will leave it below my video so people can go on the website. They can go and see what amazing devices and technologies you're building right now. So thanks again and have a good one.
Thanks, Anna. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.